committee meeting from March 13th. Thanks, Sean. He's like, I see the gavel, but I didn't hear anything. Thank you, Sean. We're calling the school committee meeting for March 13th to order. It is 7 p.m. and we have one remote participant, so we'll do a roll call to order. So Chuck? Here. Sarah?
Here.
Carla?
Here.
Aaron?
Here.
Sean?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. We'll quickly walk through the agenda and then we'll jump right in. So after this call, we'll open with public comment for anybody from the public who wishes to address anything that is not on the agenda. We'll then move on to our focus on excellence, and we are joined by some very excited Lego Leaguers here. Right? We're going to hear about their experience at both Birch and Killam, and apparently there was a little showdown last weekend.
Showdown.
So, we'll see. We move on to our consent agenda from there, and then we'll move on to reports, where we have our student, our assistant superintendent for learning and teaching. I don't see the other one on the call yet, so our superintendent and liaison reports. We'll then move to new business, including the acceptance of a new scholarship that's been funded by Ms. Savio in honor of her deceased husband. We'll then move forward to announcement of a new school resource officer, primarily to be based here at the high school, and the high school counseling annual update, and the ESL curriculum update. And then we get to the real exciting part of the night, which is a bunch of policies. Right? I know everybody's here for that, right? Policy reviews. So we have a bunch of policy reviews, 5 that we can accept tonight potentially, 1 that we'll have a first reading of because it's a new policy, and then we'll move on to updates of potential policies for our next meeting. And from there we will close. Okay? So, with that said, seeing so many in the audience, is there anybody here who has public comment? So much excitement. Okay, so we'll move on from public comment, and Dr. Milcheski, will you introduce the Lego League and their team?
Awesome.
Coaches and team?
Yeah, we are absolutely thrilled tonight to be joined by so many of our Lego League stars here tonight. So before we invite them up to recognize, celebrate them, and hear directly from them, a few people we want to thank tonight. First, we want to thank our 2 coaches, Tiffany Lynch, who's not here with us, and then Mackenzie Bilodeau, who is here, you'll hear from shortly. Fun fact, Mackenzie also works in our central office, which is awesome. So after school, heads over and supports the Killam team, which is awesome. We also see our extended day team who were, after a little bit of a break from Lego League, were able to pull it together and bring it back as a strong offering for our community, for our students. We have Leanne Eggeman here, but Mackenzie Irwin and Chris Nelson are not with us, but just like to thank them for their leadership in bringing this wonderful opportunity back to our students. And would also like to thank our school committee. This is something our school committee had advocated for several years, and we're thrilled that now we see sort of the fruits of all that advocacy and work behind the scenes too. So enough of that. We'd like to say congratulations to all of our amazing students for your work this year. The community is super excited to hear from you, to hear what it was like, to hear about what made it so fun. And as we shared, you're about to be famous. You will be on live TV, yes, and there'll be a recording of this. So I will invite up Coach Bilodeau, who will give a little bit more on what happened for the teams this year, and then we'll get to hear from some of our students.
Coach, if you'd come up here next to Chuck, that'd be great.
Hello. So I had the opportunity to coach at Killam this year, and I was so excited to hear that they were running Lego League because I had some experience with it at the center I was at prior to coming to Reading, and I'm just so proud of both teams. Both teams were quite large this year. So at Killam we had 9, and there was also 9 at Birch, which a typical team is about 4 to 5. So the fact that we were able to get 9 is very impressive. Most of them are 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. Some of these boys, it was all boys in both groups, had never done any coding before. They had never worked with the robots that we worked with. So it was a learning curve for everyone. We met from the beginning of October all the way until last weekend when we had the competition, and they just put so much work in. For those of you that don't know the different aspects that go into Lego League, most people think they hear Legos, it's just building Legos. But it's not. There's coding of a robot, there's building the missions, which they're all on a table, and they change each year, and you can pick as a team which missions you want to complete. So you get different points for completing different missions. There's also a research project aspect to this. So this year the theme was submersibles, so you had to pick a topic that had to do with underwater. So both teams did research, they found out facts about that, and then they presented that in front of a whole group of people at the competition. They go over core values, which are kind of those key points that FIRST wants to instill in everyone that participates. So there's a lot of different things that they did to get to the competition. It wasn't just building Legos, and they did such an amazing job. I'm so proud of them.
Great. So we would, go ahead.
Yeah, so at this point, we'd like to actually invite everyone who participated to come on behind Coach Bilodeau here, and then we'll invite anyone who wants to come up to speak about their experience. You can share something that you thought was fun, something that you learned, anything that you would like to share with the community. And tell us your name, your school, and your grade, too.
I'm Charlie. I am in 4th grade and I go to Birch Meadow. Something that I learned is that, like most people that join this, probably, I just thought it was like coding a robot to do some things and then building Legos. But turns out it's a lot more. So I like it a lot better than I thought it would be,
Awesome.
even though I would love that. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Charlie.
My name is Will. I'm in 3rd grade, and my school is Killam. And one thing that I learned is it's very hard to do all these things in just a couple weeks, so that's why we got a ton of time.
Thank you, Will.
I am Ben. I'm in 3rd grade. And one thing I learned was that I could do a lot more than I thought I could do.
Awesome,
Love
awesome.
I did a lot more than I thought. I did it all. I did all of it.
Thank you,
Great job,
Ben.
Ben.
That's awesome.
Hi, I'm Patrick, and I'm in 3rd grade. I go to Killam, and I really loved it this year, and it was just really fun.
Thanks,
Nice.
Patrick.
Hi, my name is Ben. I'm in 3rd grade, and I go to Killam. One thing that I learned is that it was very hard, but we were able to pull through. We were able to get a few missions, not as much as we liked, but it was enough. So yeah, we're very proud of ourselves for at least getting a few missions done, and at least making it to the competition.
Nice job,
Awesome.
nice
Thanks,
job.
Ben.
My name is Gannon. I am in 3rd grade. I go to Killam. One thing about Lego League is that the coding was hard at first, but then after a couple weeks, I got to learn it, and I got to do it.
Thank you, Gannon.
Thank you. So, Brian.
My name is Brian Williams, and I go to the Birch Meadow. So I would say one thing about Lego League is you might think it's easy to make it's like making a robot go in a circle, but it's a lot more complicated than that. It's pretty hard to learn coding. So it was pretty hard to do the coding to complete a lot of missions, so it takes a lot of time.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Brian.
My name is James. I'm in 3rd grade. I go to Killam. One thing that I learned is it's harder than it looks.
Thanks, James.
Thanks, James.
That is true.
Hello, my name is Owen Andrade, and I'm in 4th grade. One thing that I learned is that even though that my team did not win, it was still very fun to compete and just very fun to participate.
Awesome,
you,
thank you.
My name is Will. One
I go to Birch Meadow, and I'm in 3rd grade. One thing that I learned about Lego League is that it's like not as easy as it seems to code a robot to like push something or bring something up. It's like it's way harder than it seems.
Thank you, Will.
Hi, my name is Sebi. I'm a 5th grader at Barrows. I think the funnest thing was building the right attachments and coding at the right time to do the right things.
Nice.
Thank you.
My name is Cormac. I go to Killam, and one thing I learned was it's just more than doing Legos, and I hope to do it again next year.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Cormac.
I have one question for someone, if someone wants to answer too. So I was interested when a couple of you said it was harder than it looks. I don't know if someone could give me an example of a time where maybe, I'll call on someone in 1 second, where maybe things were hard, right? Where maybe things were difficult and you figured out a way to get the job done. I don't know if someone could help tell a little bit of a story of something that happened. All right? Brian, you want to come up? Tell me a little bit of a story of something that happened where your team had to push through.
Something that was pretty hard for like the Lego League, like is where we did the mission where you're supposed to lift up a bud of corals and put it on a little hook. We were working on it so long and we didn't really get much done because it was a really, really tough mission. So then we completed the boat mission, then we went back to that one, and after like more experience like coding for the boat mission, it got a bit easier.
Nice, nice.
That's great.
Going back and refactoring. I like refactoring.
That's great.
Anybody else want to add, want to do another example of those?
Sure, that'd be
Yeah,
great.
let's
That was a
take
great
one more.
example.
Cormac, you want to come forward again?
Like when we were trying to even like get the robot to like just move a certain way, it was still like hard to get it to like turn the right way and amount, because it wasn't just like you put in a number, because there was a lot of specific amounts you had to make it like move and turn.
I'm going to ask one more different question. I heard a lot of third graders, which means we have a chance that you guys can come back in 4th grade and 5th grade and others. I heard Cormac said he's coming back next year. Is everybody else coming back next year? Maybe, but that's still a pretty good return. You guys, that's awesome. Any other questions from anyone on the committee? No? All right, we have one tradition we do, and we have our focus on excellence, and that's that everybody comes down front in here and we take pictures with the school committee, so parents can have their pictures as well.
You guys did awesome.
That was great.
Great job. Great. Back up, guys, back up. Scoot back on the
What do we want to say on 3? Cheese. Either one, Lego League or cheese.
1, 2, 3. All right. Good job. All right, you're up.
Like build it and then like
No problem.
I know, it just sits there.
much better with like came up with a plot line and like characters and a story. That was the best. An enthusiastic crew. I know, so well spoken.
Okay, well, they filter out. Let's move forward to our consent agenda. And Aaron, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second, all right. Any discussion topics or points of concern? John, anything? Nope. Okay, so we'll vote then. Chuck? Yes. Sarah?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Tom, yes, the consent agenda passes 6-0. And we'll move on to reports. You want to start us off, sir?
Sure. First of all, it's great to see LEGO League back because actually I think when I was in 4th grade, it was probably the last time that it happened at Birch Meadow, and I was on that team. I still remember that we did, it was called like water systems, I think was the topic that year. So it's great to see it back because that really sparked a big interest in science, and I'm so glad that other people are able to share that experience now. So RMHS specifically has had a lot going on this month. We've had a lot of winter sports and activities closing out, and a lot of huge successes. So starting out, the Drama Club 2 weeks ago just advanced from the preliminary round of our drama festival, and we'll be performing in Andover this weekend on Saturday in the semifinal round. We also got 7 awards in the last round, including the Stage Managers Award, which was given to like the school with the best spirit and overall technical excellence. An award in assistant direction, lighting design, and 3 acting awards. So those are huge accomplishments for the Drama Club in only our 2nd year back in the METG competition. And so yeah, we're so excited to compete again this weekend and share an unoriginal original. And then in the school, the past few weeks, Barbara Best, a fellow from Harvard, has been interviewing and like working with different groups as part of an affinity group study for her doctorate in education leadership. So I had the privilege of speaking with her on Tuesday, and it was really a great experience to hear what she had to say about the school community and what she wanted to know in terms of what the school and the whole Reading Public Schools can do to improve starting in kindergarten and 1st grade and moving all the way up to the high school, just to build a better sense of belonging. It was great to hear other people's perspectives and just know what were the most valuable points in the school system. And the Reading Coalition was also there helping facilitate a great discussion, and they were talking about different leadership opportunities and ways to make a lot of these decisions and ideas that people came up with a reality. Then last night was the college fair here in the field house, where over 120 different colleges had representatives here to talk to students. And it was full of people from RMHS and surrounding towns. And it was busy all night. I was there for a while, and there were just people at every booth, a lot of great information, some really awesome opportunities to fill out interest forms and ask questions of different schools to get an idea, especially ones that are further away and harder to visit. So that was a huge success, and Guidance put in a lot of work over the last few weeks setting that up and making sure we had schools from all over the country. And then, so next week is the start of spring athletics and tryouts on Monday. So all the spring sports, baseball, softball, tennis, outdoor track, and lacrosse are all starting up again. And it's a huge time for all the tryouts. People are getting super excited, and it's just a buzz in the halls. And then also over the last few weeks, school counselors have been meeting with their whole caseloads about course selection for next year. And I think those are pretty much all done now. People have had opportunities to talk about all the different new courses. There's a bunch of new dual enrollments and a few new APs that seemed to be hitting it off with students. People have been talking about all the new opportunities. So it's a great move forward for more advanced classes. And then just last week, or 2 weeks ago as well, the RMHS DECA team had a huge success in their Boston competition, where 5 students moved on to the international competition in Orlando, Florida in April. And 2 RMHS students also placed in the top 6 in their event of independent business planning. And Ms. Rosenfeld has really been a huge support for this group. I've heard so many great stories about DECA and how empowering it is and how it's really helping people, especially who want to go into the business field, get firsthand experience. And she's put in so much work this year to get the DECA team to competitions and everything. So that's a great step forward as well. Then also coming up this month, sophomore semi at RMHS, like every year on the 22nd. English MCAS for grade 10 is the week after that. And then the PTO is inviting the speaker, Liz Feria, who will present on when worry comes home. And then junior prom is the following week on April 3rd at Andover Country Club. And then right after that, the freshmen are holding the annual progressive dinner at Crystal Community Club in Wakefield. So all the classes have huge events coming up. Senior prom is just a few months away, and I know tickets are already going on sale as well. That's pretty much what's coming up.
That's a mouthful, Jason, thank you.
Just a few things happening.
Anybody have questions for Jason? No? Okay. I like hearing about the excitement about the AP classes, but that was last agenda's meeting topic as well, so. Thanks, Jason. You know the rules. Stick around as long as you want, or if you have to run to do homework or anything else, we have no problem, so.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Jason.
Dr. Hardy, I think we're on to you.
Excellent. Well, good evening, everyone. Two quick updates for you. Today, we had our first meeting of the Technology Impact Committee. Mr. Brandt is one of the representatives on the team, and we have 4 administrators and 4 members of the RTA, so 8 members altogether. This is one of the committees that's in our contract with the RTA that we can call when there's a need. Recently, well, actually, beginning last summer, when we had our district leadership retreat with school committee, we started digging into the topic of AI in schools, and there's been continuing work in the district this year. For example, here at the high school, one of our professional learning tracks for teachers has been around AI in schools. In talking with Jess Bailey, the president of the RTA, we felt that it was time to launch a committee that could dig some more into the work that might need to be done going forward. At this point, we're looking at establishing a vision for AI, and that would be something that would be iterative, of course, because as we all know, the technology of AI is constantly changing, and we certainly can't nail down one point in time with it. And I think the work of the committee this year will set us up perhaps for what next year might look like with additional working groups, and there's a lot to be done, but we have an exciting start to that. The other little thing I wanted to mention that was kind of exciting that happened last week, I've talked to you a few times about the professional development we're offering this year through a DESE grant for illustrative math, which is our K-6 core math curriculum. We actually had a visit from DESE. They wanted to come and see the PD in action that's being grant funded by them. And they were so impressed, they've asked to have someone come out to another one of our PDs and even looking at maybe interviewing us for information that they will share with other districts about how to support teachers with high-quality PD. The day that they came, we were over at Joshua Eaton, and it was the 3rd grade teachers at Joshua Eaton, Wood End, and Barrows. And the model is that the teachers have some time to do collaborative planning, then they go into the classroom. Different teachers take a portion of the lesson, and our teachers were amazing, as I'm sure you would expect, and really were able to show off the features of our high-quality curricular resource and also learn from each other. The debrief after was also impressive to DESE, the way our teachers are learners and reflecting and picking up on what they saw other teachers doing. And so it was really a successful day. I just want to highlight that and thank our teachers who have been participating in that PD.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Dr. Hardy?
I'll just make a comment that how nice it is to hear that the strides we're making in PD, because years ago, it was a main complaint of the teachers that they're just not getting anything out of it.
Yeah.
So kudos and thank you.
I want to fess up, Dr. Hardy was kind enough not to throw me under the bus. I actually missed the majority of our meeting today. We were supposed to get started. But she was kind enough to stay on the line with me after and catch me up, so I feel well involved with the action next time.
Very honest.
I never would have told Sean.
I know, but I did notice you looking towards the camera with a smirk.
All right, with that said, now you got a tough act to follow, Dr. Miller.
Just one update. I continue to be really encouraged by the work at the high school to provide real-world, authentic learning opportunities for our students. A couple of weeks ago at the school committee meeting, there was a question around the anatomy table, if it had arrived yet, which for those in the community who have been following closely, this aligns. We received over $100,000 in grant funding to purchase what is a highly technical virtual dissection and virtual visualization tool. And we're really excited that that aligns with our healthcare social assistance pathway. It has arrived and now is in Ms. Dalby's room. The teachers are now working through that to figure out how to best bring that to life in the classroom for students. But eventually we'd like to invite community members in to be able to see the tool in action. And again, which we think is a great representation of the type of learning experiences that we're trying to provide our students here inside the four walls, which truly prepare our students for the world once they graduate. So very excited about that update. It was long overdue, but it's finally arrived. It's here, and we hope to showcase it to the community very soon.
Awesome.
Any questions for Dr. Milczewski? No? All right, we'll move on to liaison reports, and Sean, we'll start with you.
No report.
Okay, Chuck?
Nothing school-related.
Pickleball.
Is pickleball? Okay. Sarah, anything from you?
No report.
No report. Carla?
We had a meeting for the Killam School Building Committee on Monday. Our main topic of that meeting was that we granted a further design amendment to our designer. So we were granted $2.2 million for our schematic design feasibility phase up through the vote, which is May 13th. We have pushed our schedule back 6 weeks, so we've gained 6 weeks on the schedule, and we are way under budget. So we granted a $500,000 design, furthering design amendment to our designer to push forward, to further the design. So what that means is when the town votes on May 13th, if we have a successful outcome, the designer will be able to hit the ground running. They don't have to wait a month to further their design. They actually can hand it right over to their sub-consultants, which is huge. Not many districts have that opportunity to be able to do that, so we had a lot of meetings and met with MSBA and met with our committee on Monday to be able to do that, so we're really excited about that. The risk to that is if Killam doesn't pass on May 13th, these funding dollars are not reimbursable to begin with the MSBA, but we would technically not be using that design work unless we decided as a community to do something on our own after. So, like I said, we had very thoughtful discussions with the town, with legal counsel, with the MSBA, with the superintendent, with the town manager, assistant town manager, about this process. And just in terms of monetary savings or value to that, an escalation, 4% escalation on $100 million construction contract is $333,000 a month. So we gained ourselves back 2.5 months in that respect. And I won't get into all the other benefits, but it lines us up to bid the contract in March, which is the optimal time to hand it over to a contractor. And the construction market is softening, so yay for us.
Great, yeah.
Okay, any questions for Carla?
One more thing.
One more thing?
Killamschool.com, our website, has updates on it. It has our May 13th date for debt exclusion election. And you can go and see updated designs there. And hopefully by the end of this week, we'll have a one-page cheat sheet of just the details about the project. Hopefully by the end of this week, we will also have a calculator up on the town website, but we'll have a link from our website over so people can go in and put their home value in and find out what happens to your taxes.
Chuck.
Carlo, thank you. What do you, with the savings, you attribute that to the schedule, or what mainly, or what is that from? Being under budget.
We were allotted $2.2 million. We got our work done. We didn't use, our designer did a lot of work, but our designer's contract was lump sum. So they had a contract for the whole time frame. The one variable is our OPM's contract was hourly.
Yeah, hourly, that's what I meant, yeah,
Yeah.
the shorter time.
So, and at one point in time, about 3 months ago, the OPM reached out and said, Carla, we're coming to too many meetings.
Yeah.
We're creeping up to our allotted amount. So we cut them back on, meetings that they really didn't need to attend at that time. But we did extend their contract as well, because we do need support during this phase of the project as
I
well.
mean, that's good news that needs to be telegraphed when you're talking about the whole project going forward, I would think, when you're asking for.
Ahead of schedule and under budget.
Yeah.
You're using the budget to stay even further ahead of schedule and save even more money, essentially, is what it sounds like, right?
And this work that will be done by the designer comes off the designer's budget on our next phase. So it's not like we're paying extra. We're taking the chance that we're passing, this vote is going to pass and the project's going to continue. But we will take it off of the end of that. And in terms of like it being reimbursable or not, it wouldn't be reimbursable on the other side because there is a cap. MSBA has a cap to their designer's fees. Let's say our designer's fee is $10 million. Their cap is like $700,000. So that portion of it wouldn't be reimbursable by the MSBA anyways. So for us, with the escalation savings, it's a no-brainer. Not every district gets to do this. Some districts do. I will bet you that Lexington will be doing what we're doing, or putting up additional funds to keep their momentum going. The nice part about it, too, is our designers are not just sitting and waiting for the vote. We have them engaged, so it kind of keeps the momentum going. So for these 2 months that they will be partially funded, they won't call in their entire team of sub-consultants, but we will gain back that 1 month of actual design time. Yep, you're welcome.
Any other questions for Carla?
No, that's outstanding.
Okay, Aaron?
No report.
All right, just one quick report, which we'll also hit on the details of later in the meeting. It's that we had 2 policy subcommittee meetings on the 4th and the 11th, and we continue to make progress on our 157 policies. Don't shake your head at me. All right, with that said, we're going to move to our new business, which is a vote to approve the acceptance and the conditions of the David Savio Law Enforcement Scholarship Fund. And as part of that, Ms. Michelle Savio, we'd love to have you come up and talk to us about the scholarship and David and what you would like to do, so. No, come on up next to Chuck if you don't mind.
Hi, I'm Michelle Savio. My son, who's a high school senior, class of 2025, is in the back row there in the comfy seat. That's Robert Savio. I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you to the school committee. Thank you to Chief Clark, who's in the audience. Thank you to Lynna Williams, the town treasurer, Diane Morabito, who really helped me really kind of create this scholarship. My husband loved this community. He loved really everything about it. When he passed, and we were thinking of a way to keep his legacy alive, it was kind of a no-brainer for us to create a scholarship in his memory to support high school students who are interested in pursuing a career in law enforcement and criminal justice. He loved his job. Excuse me. And it's really an honor, excuse me, for our family to, keep his legacy alive in this meaningful way. So just thank you all for your support. I'd also like to thank all the staff at Wood End, Coolidge Middle School, and the high school. They've been so supportive to us and our 3 children, Robbie, Katie, and Charlie, and we're just so appreciative of this community for all their support. So thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
And thanks, David, for all his service to this community as well. That shouldn't go unsaid. Okay. You have a motion?
Motion to approve, right? To approve the conditions of the David Savio Law Enforcement Scholarship Fund.
Motion to approve the acceptance and conditions of.
Acceptance and conditions.
Seconded by Carla. Any further discussion? No? All right. Roll call. Sean, we'll start with you.
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
And Tom, yes, and it passes 6-0. Michelle, thank you. So let's move on to the next thing, which is the announcement of a new school resource. Actually, Michelle, do you want to take a picture?
Oh, no, that's nice.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. I don't. Okay, so now we'll move on. To the announcement of new school resource officer, Chief Clark. Will you come join us with our new SRO?
Join him here.
You can, yeah, exactly. He'll get on camera there.
First of all, I just want to thank you for accepting the grant on David's behalf. David is not only a co-worker of mine, we actually went to the police academy together, graduated Reading High School together, and met at Birch Meadow in 5th grade. So we go way back, and Michelle said is he truly loved this town, this community, and he was the definition of what you want a police officer to be. An amazing human being, amazing person, amazing father, amazing husband, and truly there would be no other police officer in the police force like him. He was the best police officer, hands down, this department has ever had, and it means a lot for us on the police department to accept this grant and hopefully have people that want to emulate him join the job and work and serve this community. He really did. He was Reading in and out, so I just wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you.
To go forward with this, we'd want to take the time to introduce our newest school resource officer. I know I was going to talk. I think the superintendent wants to talk, and then we'll have Officer Davis talk. So I'd like to introduce officially our newest school resource officer, Mike Davis. So we had a first round of interviews with the candidates on February 24th. It was made up of school personnel and police department personnel, including members of the coalition. And then we had a second round of interviews on March 3rd, which included the superintendent, the RMHS principal, Callahan, myself, the deputy chief of police, the town manager, and Lieutenant Detective Abadi. And after those 2 rounds, we had a great pool of candidates. But after 2 rounds of interviews, it was clear that Officer Davis was, in our opinion, the best fit for the police department, best fit for the schools. So we're proud to announce him as the official school resource officer. Officer Davis was hired by the police department in January of 2022. He's been with us since. He is a member of the Honor Guard unit, so he represents us all sorts of special events, funerals, different things. He's also a field training officer. So a field training officer is handpicked. They are the officers responsible for training new police officers when they graduate the academy and making sure they're up to speed after graduating the academy. And he is actually, right after this, he is going back to go teaching the RAD class. He's one of our newest RAD instructors, and he'll be teaching the RAD class. Prior to joining us, he worked for the Department of Corrections and the Department of Youth Services prior to becoming a police officer here in Reading. So he has a unique background, and we're not delaying this at all. He's actually going to be starting Monday with Detective Lewis and Detective Cooper. And he'll be finishing out Detective Lewis will be finishing out the entire school year with Officer Davis. There might be some trainings here and there that it might be out of school for, because if we can get into those trainings and get him certified as a school resource officer in some investigations, we're going to. But for the most part, he'll be working starting Monday through the school year, and then we'll look at have him starting the school year with Detective Lewis as well, just make sure everything's settled. The whole plan is to have such a smooth transaction that he becomes such a familiar face that it's when he starts the school year next year and he's seen around, there's no skipping a beat. He will be spending time with SRO Vatcher as well, and working in the elementary schools and going around meeting everybody, but we wanted to start right away, so we're actually going to be starting him on Monday. So, if you guys.
I'd first like to thank the chief for putting together a very collaborative process that engaged a lot of our different stakeholders in our community throughout the process. I'd like to thank the candidates who all put their names forward in the hat. I thought it was a great pool of candidates and really enjoyed the process, getting to know each of them as well. A few things stuck out to our team. I speak on behalf of Principal Callanan. Also, we had teachers involved in the process as well about Officer Davis and what he would bring to our team. First, his experience, which Chief Clark just spoke a little bit about, but someone who clearly is coming in with experience, not only successful experience on the Reading Police Department, but also his background, Department of Youth Services, Department of Corrections. He came across as someone who has the poise that is needed in the role. I will say, being in any sort of law enforcement role, you need poise, and I would argue in schools, you need some serious poise. And I think that's what we felt that he would bring to the table. Two, we feel that he brings a really unique and interesting perspective. We think he's coming in understanding that there is a history and a legacy of a strong SROs in the role, and that's based on partnerships. So we sense that it's someone who wants to work with the youth, who wants to partner with the schools, and really wants to be here to serve students. And I think that that came across loud and clear. The other thing that stuck out to us, this is someone who really wants the job. This is someone who's passionate. He will describe in a few minutes, both his wife and his mother are public educators. He came in doing his homework and made it very loud and clear. This is a role that he sees himself in, that he can see himself thriving. So we are really fortunate to have Officer Davis joining our team here. We think that he will continue on, again, the strong partnership that we've had, and appreciate everyone who was a part of this process, and really looking forward to throwing you right in the mix on Monday. And I think we want to give Officer Davis a chance to be able to share.
Speak a little bit,
I want to say thank you, Chief Clark and Superintendent and everyone that was a part of the selection process for giving me this opportunity. Very excited to start. I can't wait to start on Monday. Like the superintendent said, I come from a family of educators. My mom has been a teacher in the PBD public school systems for over 25 years now. My wife is a teacher in the Lynn public school systems. So I admire and have the utmost respect for what educators do on a daily basis. They have a lot of workload, but at the end of the day, they care for the kids, and that's the most important thing. I'm excited to start. I know I have big shoes to fill with SRO Lewis leaving, but I look forward to learning from him and SRO Vatcher as well. And I'm looking forward to meeting everyone, being a familiar face within the schools, not only for the staff, but also for the students as well. Thank you.
I did fail to mention that last summer we ran our very first Youth Police Academy, and Officer Davis was instrumental in getting that running, and in teaching almost every single day. He did the physical fitness portion with the kids, and that was part of it for our decision too, was seeing him interact with the youth in that role and taking a leadership role, but interacting with them. Really, it was great to see. That program was extremely successful. There's a lot of teamwork behind it, but he was instrumental in helping getting that was going as well.
I have one other thing to add too. He loves kids working with the youth, but also loves dogs. I've got that question, so I'll just get that out of the way too. So that did come up.
Carla to ask the question.
I've already heard the question, so it's.
I knew you were going for the hair color. Come on. We're getting another rusty colored dog is what you're going to say, right?
And yes, the plan is still we want to get him settled, but into next year, looking at introducing a comfort dog with him. I know he's very excited. We put that as part of the job stipulation, and he's very excited for that. I heard your wife is a dog lover,
yes.
And so it's
wife and daughter.
Yep. So, but it's something, again, that is going to depending on when there's litters born, everything. But that is on the plan to get another comfort dog back in here with him. So.
Great. Any other questions?
I was to say, that's the question I got when we've shared that Detective Lewis and Detective Cooper had gotten a promotion. They were, well, that's exciting. Are we getting another dog? So, lovely to welcome you, but the kids are really excited.
Okay. Sean, anything from you?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Okay. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations, and
welcome.
we're happy to have you part of the team.
Welcome.
I'd just like to thank the superintendent. The collaboration as the chief of police and the superintendent, we've had a great relationship with the schools for years now, and I'm glad to see this continue on, and it's, we're very much like on the same page with getting to keep that collaboration, so it's great to kind of do that, and just thank the school committee for the time with us. So,
Thank you. Thank you for coming,
Thank you
Chief Clark. We very much appreciate it. Okay, moving right along, and we will have our high school counseling annual update. Principal Callahan and Director of School Counseling, Ms. Lena Williams. Please come on forward. And Dr. Milczewski has the presentation to do with you.
Price is Right music to play.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Pass it down, see if it works from over there.
Oh, thanks. It's always great to see you, you know, this once a year, coming back and being able to share all the wonderful things about the guidance department, specifically around college admission, so thank you for having us. Jason kind of stole my thunder as far as like sharing all the great things that have been happening this week. It definitely has been a busy week. We had a really successful college fair last night. Just as he said, there was 120 colleges that came, but I think what was most impressive to me was the amount of students that were here. So we're guessing it was over 700 just based off of the number of programs that we printed. 700 programs. There was just a few that were left over, and most families didn't take more than one. So that's a sign that we had a great turnout. As you know, just from me talking about this in past years, we collaborate with 10 other schools. We do all the work. They advertise to their students. That's strategic on our part because the more students we can get to come to the college fair, the more colleges want to come. So every year we get praise for the amount of students and the preparation that we do with our students and the questions that they're asking. So there was a big push this year to get more sophomores to come, and there was a lot of resistance, which is pretty typical. Again, that's another strategy on our part, that we want students to go into the college fair just getting exposure of it, and that there isn't this idea that we want sophomores to find their dream college, but we do want them practicing talking to college reps. So next year, when it's more real and they're in it and they really have wrapped their head around it, it's not so intimidating. So I was glad to see the amount of sophomores and juniors that were there. So that was a fun night for us. We had SATs on Saturday. We're right smack in the middle of course selection, both for the high school and middle school. And here we are talking about college admission. So
Busy.
never a dull moment.
Yeah.
All right, so just talking about, this is statistics that I put together every year pertaining to last year's class. So the data that is here and the numbers and the percentages are not too far off from what I was presenting last year. There's just, 1 or 2% difference on many of the things. So our students went to 27 different states, 2 countries, outside of the United States. 40% attended private colleges and universities. 75% stayed in New England. So this is pretty typical where students, when they start the admissions process, they want to go far away. There's a lot of kids who want to go to Florida and California. And then by the time they're in senior year and final decisions are made, that's when they start coming closer to home. So that's not too much of a surprise. 49% of the overall class stayed in Massachusetts. And of that, 49% are attending public colleges and universities. So this is always a topic of conversation every year when we're looking at the percent of students who go to 4-year school, 2-year colleges, preps. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Did not want to do that either. Here we go. Prep school and in employment. And so there's like a slight decline on the 4-year college, but with that, I actually celebrate this because one of the things that we've pushed really hard for is to have all students realize that there's so many opportunities out there for them. And we have more students who are interested in the military, gap year programs, going into the trades. I want to applaud Principal Callanan and Katie Buckley, who have done a great job with Innovation Pathways and partnering with us to get more people coming in, talking to students about trades so they know about all different options. So I think we're at a point where more students are comfortable celebrating what they want to do and openly talking about options outside of college, which I think is wonderful. As long as parents are on board and this is, what they feel is right for them and they feel good about it, that's what we want every student just to leave feeling good about whatever their plans are. So to me, the percentage of, a slight decrease in number of kids who are going to four-year college or two-year college and stuff, as long as they're happy and they're finding what's right for them, that feels good for us.
I also think that in casual conversations with students and parents, one of the big driving factors, well, as we all know, is cost. And the cost of some private colleges is rising quickly. And students are either deferring to state universities that are very high quality education. It's incredibly hard to get into UMass Amherst. Even with kids sometimes with a 4.0 or higher are not getting in. And also community college is now free in Massachusetts. So I wouldn't be surprised to see different shifts in the coming years because students are more and more focused and their families on graduating from college without debt. And so I do think that is something that's kind of shifting thinking as the annual cost of colleges, private colleges increases dramatically. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Here are our SAT scores, and starting last March is when we went digital for the SATs, so that has been a big shift for us. Coordinating it, I love it. It's super easy to coordinate now. Everything is right there in front of me. I can pull things up pretty quickly. It's very clear who needs to go where and do what. But here are our averages, and I know that you wanted to talk a little bit about the scores.
Yes, I think that we are always striving to have the highest SAT scores as possible. We've made a lot of shifts in the last couple of years, even prior to me starting at the high school, work with Dr. Hardy and Dr. Milichewski in reorganizing the curriculum, especially our math curriculum, really like K-12. And I think that we'll hopefully see a boon in the math scores shortly. We're still above the state average, but obviously we always want to be better, and we're going to continue to encourage students to make sure that they're prepared for SATs. There is, a lot of spaces, devaluing of the SATs and ACTs when kids are applying to college. Some colleges are test blind, some are test optional now. That changed a lot during the pandemic. Some are coming back. So I'm always curious to see how that's playing out nationally. And I do think that there has an impact on, the test is now an intuitive test, that it's gone online. And so that presents to be somewhat more challenging to students. And it's sort of like a March Madness brackets. As you go down, you have to answer 4 more questions and dig back out that are worth different points. And so GREs have been like that for a very long time, but now the SATs are also like that as well. So that is a recent shift. As the test went digital, they changed over to an intuitive test as well.
And although I don't have the statistics to share with you right now, we still have a high percentage of our students who are taking the SATs, and I think that's because we offer them here, where many area high schools have stopped offering them. So that also means that we get a lot of those students who take the SATs here. But I like that students are still taking them because they can choose if they want to submit scores or not, depending on what colleges that they're applying to. So if it's going to help them, we want them to submit. If it's not going to help them and the school is test optional, it's nice that they don't have to do that.
Lynn also had one point. This is obviously one of the metrics that we look at in student outcomes that matter to us and how our students are doing. So we'll continue to monitor. I would say also the interventions or supports are not all high school here, right? This is cumulative for a student's experience, right, in the years before. So if you talk about trying to boost, math, SAT scores, it is not just a strategy that can look at the high school. You all know that, right? But this aligns with a lot of the other work we're happening across the district.
Yeah, this is 8 years of Math in Focus coming to reality. Unfortunately, but now we've changed course, so we'll look forward to seeing the improvements.
Anything else about SATs?
No.
Okay. All right, here are our AP scores, and I'm pleased to report you can see a nice increase from 2023 to 2024 with the total number of students who have scored a 3 or higher on the exams. So as you can see, there's a decrease in the number of students between 2023 and 2024, but that's also, there was a decrease in the number of students in the graduating class. So that number does not necessarily surprise me. With that, though, with the decrease in the total number of students, we still had a higher number of exams that they took overall. So last year, there were 278 students who
Took at least one.
Yeah, took at least one. And then the total number of exams were 650. And 231 students scored a 3 or higher. So that's a total of 83% scored with a 3 or higher, which is a nice place to be.
Can I ask on this one real quick?
Yeah.
Go back to it?
Yep.
Yeah. First of all, this is one of the ones I love to see, and I'm looking forward to, now that we have more AP classes, that number is going to go up. As we think about this next year, I would love to see the breakdown, especially now that we're going to have more that are available for sophomores. How many of them are sophomore students? How many of them are junior students? How many of them are senior students? And then use that 3 number, not just for percentage of kids, but percentage of tests as well, right? So are we seeing that we're able to, of the 650, is it still 83%, or are we looking at more like 50%? That's a big difference between those two things, and making sure that we're able to do it across multiple subject areas. So that's my next question, is how do we then correlate this as well? I'm sure you guys are already looking at it, and it is available on.
We have all of it.
Yeah,
It would
exactly.
be lengthy to go into
Yeah.
it today, but I'm happy to sit down with you anytime to go over all of
Yeah,
it.
no, a lot of it's available publicly too, but it'd be good to have that as part of the greater conversation as we
It's
go forward.
easier if you dig into the College Board website, but it's not easy to extract these charts from College Board. They are a little protective over them. So these are actually screenshots, but then we're able to call out the data, and I have a lot of those breakdowns, so I'm happy to go over it with it anytime.
Okay.
Do you mind speaking a little bit about requirements or how you're navigating students having to take AP tests at the end of the year? I know that's shifted over the years too, because I know that plays a role in the data too, and that's shifted over the years.
So it's our expectation that students, if they're taking an AP course, they're taking the AP exam. They're not forced. They do have to pay for them, but we just set the expectation that we want them to take the exam. So a very high percentage of students are taking the exams. What that means, though, is that there are some students who they may be taking multiple exams, and by the time seniors are taking the exams, they know where they're going to college, and they know if the college is going to accept those exams or not. So some students place an emphasis on certain exams versus others. They still take all of them, but it's definitely interesting. Like, as someone who's coordinating, I'm in every exam, and I can see who is really putting in 100% of their effort versus some who are taking it hoping that they do well, but they're placing more emphasis on other exams. I don't know if there's anything else that you want to say.
Well, I think that the shift in allowing more, like 10th graders to take more APs and hopefully encouraging 11th graders to take APs, if more 10th graders are taking APs, then it's not the end of their senior year. I have a senior in my home. I know how hard it is to keep them engaged. And I think that juniors are still very locked in. And our 10th graders, although it's a small number that have taken APs in the past couple of years, have actually fared extremely well. Those are probably usually kids in AP Chem, which is a very challenging course, but the kids work very, very hard and traditionally do well in AP Chem. So I think that as we expand, my hope is that we see kids pushing themselves to get those scores. And we also need to always emphasize the importance of getting a 3 or higher or a 4 or 5, and how, if we're thinking about that financial aspect, and it can carry over to high school or college, sometimes kids can go into college with having already met their first year of prereqs. And so it's just a kind of a shift in thinking sometimes, and get it a little push towards the end of the senior year if they are seniors taking APs to do their best.
I do feel compelled, just as the director of school counseling, where I need to take into consideration all different types of students and learners. And I do want to be very clear that AP exams are not required for all college admissions. And there are many colleges that place an emphasis on AP exams, but not all colleges. And so I want to emphasize that, because as we have increased the number of courses that we are offering, and also allowing sophomores to take some of the exams, I just don't want the wrong message to be given, and all students feel like the only way they're going to get into college is if they take AP exams. So what we want is students to take courses that they're interested in and that are challenging for them, and that they also are going to have a balanced life, and they're going to enjoy school, and they're going to enjoy their extracurricular activities. But we don't want students to overextend themselves if it's not the right place for them, or they're feeling like they have to take 5 APs because that's the only way they're going to get into their dream school. There's so much involved in college admissions. At the same time, there's a huge benefit to taking AP courses for many students, and it's college level work that is truly preparing them. But as counselors, this is one of the reasons why we're meeting with every student during the scheduling process, because we want to do right by all students. So I just want to be careful, because this is a public meeting, and there's a whole variety of people who are watching it, and I just want to make sure that we're trying to do the right thing by all students. But I still value AP courses. I have an interesting role.
Do you mind going back to the other slide?
Yeah.
I think that slide is a really important one too, the one we just had.
Oh, I skipped over that.
Skipped one.
Yep,
Yeah.
I skipped that one by accident. So this is the AP recognition. And so they give our students recognition for the number of exams that they're taking where they get a 3 or higher. So there's the first category is being an AP scholar. And you can see over the years, we've had many students who fall in that category where they receive 3 or higher on 3 or more exams. Then the next level goes into scholars with honors, where they score a 3.25 on all exams and score a 3 plus or 4 on, 3 plus on 4 or more exams. And you can see that we've had an increase over the years with that, which is really exciting to see. And the same thing for scholars with distinction. So a 3.5 on all exams, and scoring a 3 plus on 5 or more exams. So it's.
Last year was the highest number.
You almost buried the lead.
Rankings.
What'd you say?
I said you almost buried the lead.
Yeah.
If you look at that bottom line and you total those up, that is one of the strongest years we've had across the board, right?
Yes.
That's a great job by those. This only measures seniors too, right? It doesn't,
No, it's
No?
all APs.
Is it?
Anyone who's taken it.
Well,
It's hard to have had 5 APs by a junior, I guess is my point.
Right, so
It's hard to.
there are students who started last year who had 5 APs.
So they could be in
but
2023
majority
and
of
2024,
yeah,
but most of them are
majority
gonna
of
be-
them
okay.
are seniors on this, but I would imagine over the next few years, there's going to be an increase in juniors that might be in that category.
In the bottom category, but
Yeah.
there could be several juniors in the.
Correct.
In the
First 2
3 or more.
categories.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Can I ask a clarifying question? So is that when it says 3+, 3.25, 3.5, is that the average of all their exams? So they could get a 1 and 2 5s or something, and then, or do they have to at least get a 3?
Well, I think on the second, the scholars with honors and the scholars with distinction, I don't know, Tom, you're more of the math person.
It's a minimum of a.
But I would imagine that they have to have.
Yeah.
At least a 3.
There's a 2, there's an and clause there, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
in this case, if they took 4 courses, they would have to have all 3 of them have at least a 3, and then the cumulative average would have to be 3.25.
Okay.
Right.
That's what I was trying to.
But if they had 5 courses, they could have 1, and then all the rest 3 pluses,
Yeah, okay.
right?
But that would drop their average pretty.
But that would drop, well. as
Yeah,
long as-
sure,
as
I
long
know.
as you
I'm
had a
just
bunch
trying
of
to wrap my
fives,
head
right,
around
you
it,
could,
yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yep.
Any other questions about that? And then the next slide is just talking about the current class where students have been accepted so far. But I want to say that this is students self-reporting at this point. This isn't we don't get notified from every college where students have been accepted. So at this point, this is just what students have told us. And there are some students who have been accepted to many schools but may not have put it in SCORE. So this is truly just me pulling from SCORE what's available right now. And there's, what did I say? Over 1,500 applications were submitted in this year's graduating class, and we already, there's 649 acceptances that have been reported so far to 154 colleges, which is pretty similar to where we were in last year's class as well. So the next few slides just show the different schools, and this is in the packet, and I think was also made public that anybody can see those.
But I think a lot will also be coming in within the next handful of weeks, right prior to students having to,
Coming up on
May
April.
1st,
Yep.
this is it.
March and April are
D-Day.
big months for, especially for some of our very competitive schools.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah. And then the last slide just talks about some of the current and ongoing things that the school counseling department is doing along with administration. And so the first one is we had a career day that was really successful this year, so I'm very excited about that. I had this vision of what I wanted. There was a lot of work that went into making that day happen, and the night before, I definitely had this panic of like, is this all gonna work out? I was blown away with the amount of students who had positive feedback for us, and that was just really great to see. They had an opportunity to meet with 3 different professionals. We had so many community members that were willing to volunteer their time and come in. We tried to get a wide range of people. We learned a lot from doing this our first time, so there will be some tweaks that we will make next year, but what was really great is students saying that it should be longer. We wish we had more time with them. And even now, because this was in the end of January, in March, we still have students, like we're starting sophomore seminars, and they're asking, because they heard from, the upperclassmen about this day. Are we going to be able to do that next year? And kids just talking about their experience. So that was really wonderful. And I've been working with teens for a long time. Oftentimes, on days like this, they kind of go through the motions and like, why do I need to be here and whatnot, just being typical teens. But to see them fully engaged
were
and
excited,
asking
yeah.
questions was really great. So we did that, and we will continue that next year. We did our first in-person college admissions panel, so this is something that we started many years ago, and it was virtual, but we did it in person, so that was exciting, and I think the college reps really enjoy doing it in person, so that was good, and we will continue doing that next year. I personally like doing things in person. I just think that has a little bit more of a personal touch, and then people can go up and ask questions afterwards, as opposed to when I was doing it online, it was all me asking the questions, and people didn't really have an opportunity to engage too much unless they were typing in questions quickly. We worked really hard to improve our website this year, so I recommend everybody check it out. I'm really pleased with what we've done. Our old website, we just found really hard to navigate. We found it hard to navigate, and we are on it all the time, so we created a Google site, and it is much easier with a lot more information for parents and students to navigate. This is our second year partnership with College Affordable. I can't speak highly enough about this organization who has helped so many of our Reading families with the financial aid piece. And it's anything from people can attend and watch webinars to meet with them. They will help them fill out the FAFSA. And on the back end for seniors, they will help them write any appeal letters to colleges to try to get more money. And it's all free for our families. So we've had many families already partner with them and then write to me just saying what a great experience that they've had and the increase in money that they also found by writing the appeals. I already talked a little bit about the digital PSATs and SATs, so we will continue offering both of those. The PSATs was in the school day, so we have all sophomores and juniors taking the PSATs, so we will continue that. And we will continue working with administration on the innovation and career pathways and the dual enrollment opportunities for students. That definitely during course selection, there's been more students who are really excited about those opportunities. And although the senior fourth quarter internship isn't specifically a counseling initiative, there is a school counselor who is helping administration with that. And I think there's a decent amount,
Yeah, we're still, some students are on the bubble for their internships, but we're going to make it. We're confident they're going to make it because there are criteria for them to participate in the internships with attendance and grades. And so I would say right now, we're at least half to 2/3 of the class are participating in internships. And Katie Buckley and Megan Manos and Brian Skeffington are working on the internship program this year, and they started it, I don't know why we didn't think of this sooner, but started planning very early instead of way in the third quarter, an epiphany there. But that has made the program run much more smoothly, and we've built very strong relationships with our community partners and built in a lot of work-based learning opportunities to prep the students before they go out on their internships, to include an internship boot camp, which we're running the week before internship starts, just to make sure students have the skills to have a very successful experience.
Chuck, go ahead.
So, it's a question may not be available, but I'd be curious to know what college admissions think about 6 and 7. I mean, the innovation program and whether they look at that and that helps a student, and also the internship. Probably the internship's probably been around longer, so maybe that helps, but it'd be interesting. I don't know whether you ever get that kind of data from why someone got accepted or didn't get accepted.
I mean, I'm sure Lynn, I can speak to this better than I can, but I think that colleges are looking for students that demonstrate passions and initiatives and different things that set them out from their peers. And a lot of these, and we also have a summer internship program through Work-Based Learning Alliance that some of our students have participated in. And there are different experiences that students can then highlight, maybe in their essays, maybe on resumes that they attach, or embedding them into the application. Innovation Career Pathways really has an emphasis on pushing students towards challenging classes that they might not otherwise think that they could do, especially in junior and senior year. And so I think that absolutely is something that shows colleges, that students can take challenging coursework because the last 2 years are advanced courses, however that's defined. Like the Department of Ed defines what those advanced, it can be dual enrollment, it can be advanced placement, obviously, but there's also a handful of other courses that are considered advanced, like Principles of Engineering as well. So we want kids to follow their interests, but I think we're also pushing them to try more challenging courses, but we're also providing support to make sure they feel like they can do it.
Thank you.
And then as far as number 7, it's, although it doesn't necessarily help a student with the college admissions piece, it is on our school profile that we have this program. And I think it just highlights to the college the wonderful things that our school is doing. So by the time the students are doing the senior internship, they've already been accepted. But I think just knowing, the colleges knowing what type of school we are and what we place an emphasis on in the hands-on learning and things like that, I think is
And
helpful.
it really teaches them soft skills that are important, that I think help them if they're engaging in internships or interviews at their college as well, or co-ops or things like that.
Sure, Rod?
Can you just talk about how paid internships, and I think the percentage went down this year?
Oh, absolutely. So I would say in the past, most of our internships were paid, but those were paid through grants from the state and/or federal government. They came down through the state in different ways, and we always applied for those grants. None of those grants are available this year, not for education, not for STEM. I think the last couple of years, we had about up to 30 grants in each of those buckets, and it's just gone. And so I'm really bothering a lot of people to try to find out if there's any possible way, but there's nothing. Similar with other grants that we've applied for and received in the past, like skills capital grants, we still don't know about. Even the sustaining grants for innovation career pathways, we're waiting to hear if those are going to be offered. So it's challenging, but I think the kids took that information well. We told them as soon as we knew that, and that they're still benefiting from the experience of the internships. A few have paid internships that they secured on their own, but the grants that we were using in the past just weren't available this year, unfortunately.
Erin?
So first of all, I just want to say, as a parent of a college freshman, of a student who successfully navigated the high school, he is at the perfect fit of a college, and he is succeeding there, and he was absolutely very well prepared to take on the rigors and the life of college. So we're very grateful to everyone at the high school. And I owe Jen Keeney a note. But I'm curious, two things. Are you also tracking where students are not being accepted? And what sort of trends are you noticing in college admissions? So, for example, we've been hearing a lot that like numbers are going up. More and more kids are applying to more and more schools. Are you still seeing that trend? Or Jess, you touched a little bit on the cost of private colleges has gotten like astronomical. Are you seeing more students, steering away from that? Any sort of patterns that you're seeing?
Yeah, so obviously, we're looking at and paying attention to where students have gotten in, where they haven't. One of the tricky things is that a college isn't going to tell us why a particular student didn't get in. So we don't necessarily know, but we get a lot of information to see how many students are applying to a particular school, and every year the number increases on all the schools, which means that the percentage of students who are getting accepted are lower. I do encourage you to read the book. It's Who Gets In and Why, and it's a year inside college admissions. It is eye-opening, especially with the super competitive colleges, because you can see the behind-the-scenes decisions on why colleges accept certain students, and it could be for certain majors, it could be because they're trying to increase something, but they all want their number of applications to increase because it lowers the percentage of students who are getting accepted. That helps with rankings. There's a whole variety of things that go into it. But for our students, we are paying attention because it's important for us to understand how our students are doing, so we can continue to think about how we're advising students in the admissions process and if there are things that we need to tweak. But it's hard to know for one particular student why they didn't get accepted here or there. Like take UMass Amherst, for example. I mean, we had students with a 4.1 go on the wait list, for early action. I mean, when I saw that, that's crazy. Psychology, which for UMass Amherst wasn't so much of a popular major. I mean, it's a popular major, but in the admissions process, not as competitive as, say, business or engineering or computer science. But last night when I was talking to the admissions rep, she said it was crazy the amount of students who applied for psychology, which now makes that major really competitive. So there's a whole variety of things that are out of our control. And that's one of the things that we're always talking to students about. You fit the profile. If we can get past admissions, you are going to be wonderful at that particular college, but sometimes it comes down to that tricky piece of admissions that we don't know who else is applying from other schools, what you're competing against, and all of that stuff.
Right, and if a student applies to 12 schools and they get into 10 of them, and they're still right now debating, am I going, am I not going? And so once they hit, yes, I'm going, some kids withdraw their applications from the other schools and some don't. So then other kids are waiting to come off the wait list. I mean, it's a wild ride, you know?
It is a wild ride.
It's a very wild ride.
That's a good way to put it.
Having been through it a few
Right
years.
now, as I know, Carla, you are as well, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so, and yeah, and you too, right?
Uh-huh.
Wow, yeah, that's right.
Very much, yep.
Yep, it's fun.
College admissions is a whole roller coaster.
That is
I
true.
love my job as a school counselor, but as someone who has a current sophomore, I am so nervous about doing the college process with him. But it all works out in the end, you know, and just think back to where you were, like when you were right smack in the middle of the process. And, you know, it is stressful. There's a lot of wonderful parts to it. But it's always nice to be on the other side to know that it works out in some way, shape, or form.
I just want to do a general shout out for Lena and her team. She really is the backbone of the school, and people don't realize a lot of the work that she's doing, from APs to SATs, which is arguably it could be outside of her job description, but a lot of guidance directors or school counseling directors do also do that. But she does it flawlessly. And even when College Board throws you a curveball at the last minute, which happened last Saturday, and she's very creative in coming up with new and exciting opportunities for our students that are big undertakings like the Career Day. And that was a giant logistical shift of classrooms and everything like that. And we pulled it off flawlessly, I would say. I mean, there's always tweaks, but there are many, many things that Lena does, and she also is a great mentor to her staff. And I feel very fortunate to work with her, and she really keeps the best interests of students in mind in everything that she does. And so I just wanted to kind of raise her up and highlight her. And also Catherine Franzetti, who at the college fair last night did a dinner for all of the college reps, and they were so blown away because a lot of times they said they get like charcuterie boards or nothing, and they have to go scavenge for food at different places. So it's just a very classy way for us to welcome those people into our community, and I think that it really does benefit the students of Reading. And so I just want to say thank you, Lena, and thank you to Catherine for all her hard work as well.
Thanks. I really like working with you. So just, although I would love to end on a very positive note like that and with a compliment to me, but I do just want to share a few other things just in the community. For number 8, this was our second year participating in the HBCU College Fair, and it's so wonderful to bring a group of students. Any RMHS student who wants to attend can come into Boston with us, and we just work closely with them, and some students received college acceptances right then. We also did on-the-spot admissions with Salem State, which was really a great experience for some of our students, and we'll continue doing that. And one thing that I didn't think about when I sent this presentation is every year we're always trying to improve our guidance seminars and think about like what's in the best interest of the students. And we did a shift this year. We just started working with our sophomores, and we're starting a new thing with them that all sophomores will leave, they will leave high school with a portfolio, and it will be online, and it's very skills-based. So I will share, like, once we are, like, truly rolling it out, we just introduced it to them but I will send more information out to the community with information of what we're doing. But we really want students to be focusing on skills and what they're developing, the skills that they're developing that are going to help them in the future. So a lot of the things that we're doing, from resume building to keeping track of their community service, to thinking about all the different activities they're doing, and then having them reflect on the work-based learning skills that the Massachusetts, Massachusetts Work-Based Learning Plan. We took those skills, and now they can identify any clubs or sports or different activities that they're doing, and then what are the work-based learning skills that they are getting from there. So we want students to be thinking about participating in things where they're going to continue to grow and learn, and not just do it because their parents said this looks good for college admissions, because colleges see right through that. But if they learn more about these skills, and then we can develop a skills-based resume where they can really feel good about what they're doing, and not just a list of activities that they can't really talk more about. We're really excited to do that. So that's just going to continue to grow over the next few years. And then Innovation Pathway Kids are adding information into that portfolio too. So
And they're essentially required to do that, but we got working on it and decided, well, this is good for everyone. So now Lena took that on to have everybody do it. So it's exciting.
Yep. All right, that's all I got for you guys. Are there
Thank you.
any other questions?
Thank you.
I looked at the presentation, I'm like, this is going to be quick. And then
Sorry.
a lot of good information and a lot of good back and forth conversation. So thank you both for
Don't
your time.
apologize, that was
Yeah,
fantastic.
don't
Thank
apologize
you.
at all.
Thank
Exactly.
you for all you're doing.
So thank you both. Thank you both. Ms. Callahan, are you sticking around or are you heading out?
I'm staying because
Okay. I didn't know if you, yep.
I will be here.
I'll see if I can arrange orders for that
Yeah, I
then a
was
little
going to
bit.
say we could do
Yeah.
that one first, maybe.
So next on our agenda is our ESL curriculum update. And I think, Dr. Hardy, you're going to start us off,
Yeah,
but we have some friends joining us as well.
Me too. Awesome. All right. So as you know, in the Reading Public Schools, we have a process for curriculum review, which is when we want to update curriculum materials, instructional methodology, or assessments in any particular area. And we will launch into those curriculum reviews for a variety of reasons when we feel it's something that is needed for our students. In this case, looking at the curricular resource that we have in place for English as a second language curriculum, there were a couple of reasons that we launched into this. One, we've had a change over the past few years, which we'll explain tonight, in the amount of students that we have, ML learners in our district, and also with the particular needs of our students. The curricular resource that we've had in place has been there for a while. It isn't based on the most up-to-date WIDA standards. And we also had grant opportunities that were available. And so kind of combining all of those things, we decided a year and a half ago now, to launch into a curriculum review. So tonight, I'm happy to have Karen Hall with us, who's our ML director for the district, and Patrice Duggan, who is one of our ESL teachers. She's here primarily at the high school. And they are both members of our curriculum council, and they're going to walk us through sort of the process and let you know what program we've landed on. And we're excited to share this important work with you.
Great, thank you. Welcome, ladies.
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you. So as you'll see in our presentation, we put lots of information in there. We know that ours is a field that a lot of people don't know as much about, so we wanted to give you some background and also give you a lot of information about the curriculum review. But we won't speak in depth about all the slides because that would take a really long time. So we'll just highlight some things and allow you to read some others. So an overview of what we're covering tonight. We'll start with the welcome. Then we'll give you a bit of the multilingual learner context in the Reading Public Schools. We'll go over our curriculum review objectives and the process. We'll introduce the new program that we'd like to move forward with. Then we'll talk about the pilot and how we made our selection for that program. We'll go through the feedback that we got on the program, the costs and implementation, and then we'll have time at the end for you to ask questions and give us some feedback as well. So myself and Patrice make up our curriculum council along with Melissa Henry, who couldn't be here tonight. She works at both Killam and Birch as an ESL teacher, and we consulted regularly with Sarah throughout the process as well.
Okay, so I will start with the defining of terms with our ML learners. There are basically 3 terms that are commonly used when referring to multilingual learner education. The first is ESL, which is the subject that we teach to our students who are learning the 4 domains of speaking, listening, reading, and writing. The second term is ML, which means multilingual learner, and it refers to our students themselves and celebrating their diversity. And then there is, of course, EL, which is a term that the federal and state government uses for English learner, basically to define these students who are acquiring English. As you can see here with these charts, they indicate how many multilingual learners that we have at each level and school. You can see that it's a total of 86 ML students. And here you can also see there is a total of 20 different languages, with Spanish and Portuguese being the most prevalent.
Wow.
I confess I haven't heard of some of these languages. I didn't know where they all came from.
Pretty amazing.
I have one class of 8, and there's 7 languages.
That's incredible.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So we wanted to share a little bit of background on the trends that we've seen. Obviously, that drives a lot of our decisions around our curriculum choice. So the first chart you'll see gives you a breakdown of our total number of students in the blue bar, and then the percentage of that is beginners, so students new to learning English is the red bar. You'll see in 2023 we had a large influx of students that came directly from Brazil and had very little English, and that was really new for us. Prior, we'd had a lot of students that had come to us from other districts and had spent some time learning English before they came here, or had parents that had taught them English in their former country and then came for a job, and the students had already had some exposure. So it was really new for us to be dealing with newcomers as a department, but also for the school district as a whole. So our teachers got called in for a lot of support for classroom teachers and their students, obviously, as well. And then the number of service hours for a beginner are double the amount of ESL service hours for an intermediate student. So we were able to hire some new teachers, thanks to all of you, as well as part of that, too. The second chart shows you our access data. Access is the yearly test that we give to our MLs, similar to MCAS, but just for MLs. And the bottom bar, the blue bar, shows the number of students that achieve proficiency on that test. And that allows them to exit our program. That process typically takes between 4 to 6 years for students to get to that level. So that's why we're only at around that 25%. The state figure for that is 11%. The other bar, the red bar, is the number of students meeting their benchmark. The target that is set for each individual student year to year based on their prior year performance. And we've hovered right around that 50% mark for that figure there. The state's at about 38%. So we'd really like to increase that, and we think that a new curriculum will really make a difference to allow us to do that. Our curriculum doesn't really match the expectations on access at this point.
Got one question here. See if Sean, I see your hand in the air. Is there a question in particular?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. On the chart on the left, just, as we look at the number of multilingual learners, we've seen a little bit more growth since 23, but the number of beginners is staying more or less flat. How much of that is attributable to sort of different profile of the new students coming in versus us, growing some number of students out of that beginner category? Like, what does that look like when you look at the data?
So the last 2 years, we've continued to get more of those beginner students coming directly from their home country and immigrating here and needing a lot of those supports. So there is some of that number is still students that came in as beginners in 2023, but some of those students have obviously still have moved into the intermediate category. So we still have continued to get more beginners than we had prior.
Okay, so it does, I guess just to say that back, it does reflect that we are moving kids successfully out of that beginner category, at least as quickly as they're coming in, essentially.
Correct, and still continuing to get more beginners than we had in the past. Yep.
Right. Okay, thank you.
We're also seeing a lot more students at the middle and high school level that are coming in as beginners, and obviously that's real challenging to take on the middle and high school content with limited English.
Okay, in terms of the structure of ESL instruction at RPS, throughout the school day, our ML students are exposed to the English language in two distinct ways. The first is through a contained ESL class with their teacher, like myself, explicitly focusing on English language acquisition. And the second is in their SEI classes, which is Sheltered English Immersion, in which they're learning content like science, math, history, things like that. So grouped both by grade level and proficiency, depending.
Question, do we have the same like 48-month or 24-month limitation as we do with special education groupings?
I don't know what you're referring to, sorry.
What's that?
In terms of age.
In terms of age, yeah, like the grouping can't be too heterogeneous of grade levels, right? Is there a limitation? Like you can only do like 9 and 10, 11 and 12, or students within a 24-month age period?
Generally, the requirements for ESL are not quite as strict as the requirements for special education, which is nice for us. But they recommend that it's a 3-level grade span, so like 6, 7, 8, that kind of thing. Gotcha. The state is much more concerned about proficiency level than they are about grade level. Because we're targeting that proficiency level, it's much easier to have a 2nd and a 5th grade beginner than to have a 5th grade beginner with several other intermediate students.
Understood. Thank you.
So DESE has put out a lot of resources about what high-quality ESL instruction looks like. I've linked a document there that you could check out, but I tried to just highlight for you this graphic that shows some of the features that they're talking about. Sarah and I were talking how it really mirrors what happened in world language that I know you all heard about, and that we've moved away from teaching skills in isolation, teaching vocabulary and grammar in isolation, but really looking at students using rich language, rich academic language, and having the experiences of learning the language through that process. So our curriculum review process, like the other processes that we've gone through here at RPS, we started back in 2023, in the fall of 23, looking at the landscape. We had to learn what a curriculum review was all about, first of all, and then learn about what the expectations were on us in doing this process. This year, with that knowledge, we moved into then investigating and piloting some curriculum and selecting what we'd like to propose to you all tonight. And we hope in the fall of 2025 to launch with our new curriculum fully and continue to implement and monitor how that goes. So I won't read this to you, but you can take it in if you'd like. The key focus here is that we really want our instruction to drive our students' success and for them to be successful in their gen ed classrooms as well. So the rationale for our curriculum review, as Sarah mentioned before, was that our materials are outdated and not aligned to the standards that were updated in 2020. WIDA is the organization that creates the access test every year and also puts out the standards for our field. And so we're needing to align with that at this point. Also, with the growth in our students, we don't have enough materials and have been photocopying to meet the needs of our population. And then we don't have materials that are really suited to newcomers, so we've been creating a lot of things for our newcomers. The new curriculums we're looking at are highly supportive of newcomers. And I think we've touched on all this already, but we're in the 2-year review and working to establish a high-quality ESL curriculum. So a little bit of an overview of our process. I'll just touch on a few of these things as well. We had the advantage that DESE put out a curriculum module that we could complete to learn what it looks like to go through a curriculum review and to establish a high-quality ESL curriculum. The other curriculum reviews that RPS has gone through haven't had that sort of a resource. So this was really helpful to us starting off to know that we were headed in the right direction and able to make some selections. As part of that process, DESE put out a features of high-quality instructional materials rubric, and we went through that rubric to assess our current current curriculum to make sure that we did need to move forward with a new curriculum, and we found it did lack in a lot of the areas on the rubric. We talked at one point about maybe we could supplement to try and meet the needs, but it didn't feel like it would still be up to the level of the standards. And we were able to use that rubric as well to evaluate the new materials that we wanted to try out. We began looking at the market, and we found there was very limited programs that had the WIDA 2020 seal, saying that programs were aligned with the WIDA 2020 standards. A lot of the programs that are still in the market are aligned to the previous version of WIDA standards. And we found there were hardly any programs that were across K to 12. And with us being a low enrollment district, most of the teachers work in several schools and with a lot of different grade levels. So we wanted something that the teachers would be familiar with, and also students as they move through the program would feel familiar with as they work through the program. So we found there were only 2 programs that fit that criteria of having the WIDA 2020 seal and the K to 12 availability, and that was National Geographic and Vista. So we decided to pilot those 2 programs, and Patrice piloted in high school, and Melissa piloted at Killam and Birch Meadow with our elementary school students. I'll go through a little bit more detail on the pilot on the next slide, but we ended up choosing National Geographic, and we'll share those products with you in a minute as well. Another great thing that we worked on this year that we're really excited about is that we secured a $36,000 grant to support the purchase of this curriculum, as well as stipends for staff to do work outside of school hours and professional development. In order to get that grant, the state was really looking for collaboration, so we collaborated with Stoneham and Tri-Town and my colleagues in those districts, and we were far ahead of them in the curriculum pilot, and so they actually came to visit and watched lessons in Patrice and Melissa's class and explored the materials that we'd purchased so that they could see if they wanted to move forward with those materials as well. I think that's it. We have started doing some professional development, and then we're here tonight to get your approval so that we can go ahead with ordering the materials as well.
Chuck, go ahead. Yeah.
So 2020, I mean, in terms of what's gone on, it might as well have been 100 years ago. And do we think that that will be updated as we just get into this? The standards will be more, what,
Be updated again. I think the update before that was 2012.
Yeah.
And so, there perhaps will be shifts. I do think the shifts, between those 8 years was significant. As Karen said, there's been a shift just across the field of instruction in languages. And so the other thing too is the field has been really slow to respond to it, I think because of the timing of the shift in those standards. And so this feels like a really important time for us to move ahead with getting updated resources in the hands of our teachers.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
I was just thinking, as we make this decision, is it all of a sudden going to be outdated again? That was what.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. I think the publishers also are starting to go back and align materials to the 2020 standards. So some of them are offering supplements and things like that. So it's not something that feels like it's already been and gone at this point. I consult with WIDA on a few things that they're working on. And one of the things they're still doing is still trying to build out the materials to go with the 2020 standards. So they're working on stronger proficiency level descriptors and a lot of other different things. They're working on creating new can-dos, which is statements that classroom teachers and students can look at to see how they're progressing in the standards in more student-friendly language. They haven't created that for the 2020 standards yet. We're still looking back at the 2012 standards for that piece. So it does feel like it's a massive undertaking. Our standards have to be aligned with all of the language proficiency needs, but also with all the different curriculum areas. So the standards are not just for language development, but there's also standards for science, social studies, math, and ELA too. So the curriculum documents are hundreds of pages. So it is something that takes a long time to change. So in terms of the program credentials, I mentioned before the WIDA Prime Seal. So both of the programs that we piloted did have this Prime Seal saying they were aligned to the 2020 standards. I think that's all I need to say with that. So in looking at that high-quality instructional material rubric, we did go through the rubric for both of the programs we piloted, but in terms of collecting data, we wanted to just focus on some key areas to collect the data on. It felt like too much to think about all the criteria in the rubric as we collected teacher feedback. So we selected the criteria that we felt like would really make the curriculum stand out to us. It felt like a lot of the other features were standard across both curriculums. So we picked out these things as being the things that were critical for us to look at as we dove into the new curriculum. So as part of the program review, we gathered data from the pilot teachers, and also I went in and observed a lot of lessons as they were teaching and gathered data myself as well, in addition to talking to students about their experience. And what we found as we began the pilot, within a few weeks, we all felt very strongly that National Geographic was stronger. The kids were more engaged, the materials were more interesting, more relevant, had more of a cultural lens worldwide, that kids were looking at different topics. We just felt like it just really stood out. The data we were collecting also showed the same, which was that National Geographic averaged 3.7 on all the criteria out of 4, and Vista averaged 3.2. So we decided to discontinue the pilot of Vista and really focus on the National Geographic materials and see how that went with our students. Once we had made the choice of National Geographic to move forward with the pilot, we gathered some data as well from the principals in pre-K through 12, and I included their information in this chart that I've shown you here in terms of the feedback that we got towards the National Geographic materials.
And I'll be going over a little bit more of that feedback in a few minutes. So some highlights of the Nat Geo curriculum. Of course, it focuses on the 4 domains that I've talked about before. The focus is also on functional language, vocabulary, grammatical skills. We found that there is strong scaffolding included, especially for newcomers and beginners. Instruction is multimodal, including visuals, audio activities, very interactive. There's also a phonics supplement, which we'll talk about a little bit, for both K through 5 and 6 to 12. This curriculum is aligned to the science of reading instruction in phonological awareness, decoding, spelling. The content, like Karen said, is super high interest, relevant, draws on global perspectives relating to our students' cultural and linguistic backgrounds. There are assessments embedded into it, and the digital platform is super user-friendly and very, very engaging. So the first one is our elementary curriculum. It's called Our World. You can see some wonderful graphics up there. Features, as you can see, include vocabulary, even songs, which I'm a little jealous of being a high school student, as a teacher, because we don't do a lot of singing, but I do include some music a little bit. Of course, reading and writing, different projects, lots of interactive features, buttons to press on for speaking, listening, recording, just lots of help with pronunciation, and some very high-interest graphics, too. I have been piloting, actually, the middle school curriculum as well as the high school, called Time Zones. Lots of focus on conversation, of course, grammar, vocabulary, lots of reading and writing. Students listen to and practice model conversations. You can see one of them on the graphic there. They often provoke cross-curricular opportunities, like if you can see on that bottom graphic, the question asks students to create a pie chart of what do they do throughout the day. And of course, very high interest things, they have their cell phones there, very relatable topics and issues. And this is the program at the high school that I've also been piloting. It's called LIFT. I love how the unit starts with an essential question, and I love the first unit. As you could see, the first question was, how important is it to have empathy? Such an amazing unit. Lots of reading and writing, opportunities for artistic growth. I especially like how the units are thematically based, and they really reflect the genuine interests facing teens today, not just in the US, but around the world. Lots of social issues.
And we do have samples of the books that you guys can look at when we finish the presentation if you'd like to as well.
Yeah, they're beautiful books. So back to phonics for just a second. There's also a new phonics program promoted in this curriculum, even for students in the upper grades. Many students do not come to RPS with literacy, even in their first languages. So there is a necessity for a phonics program at every level to enhance English fluency. Here we have some awesome quotes from pilot teachers like myself, principals. I won't read them all, but I'll just share with you one of them. So fun and engaging, beautiful, real hosts, as well as cartoon characters, songs, stickers, games, and more. I think, am I reading the wrong one? Oh, that's okay. Okay, yeah, and this is for the, yeah, and full-color student books. They're amazing. We look forward to you looking at those. Elementary school photos of their projects and engagement with the books. I love this quote. I like the games because they bring fun and joy. I'm obsessed. I love that.
By the vocabulary, too.
Yes, I know, right? So cute. And then the next slide has some of my high school students. Really, I've been asking them almost every day, what do you think of the lessons? And I'm really getting some really positive feedback. One of our 10th graders, Kayiki, said, I think it helps to learn about new things in interesting ways. The words and language help me to understand faster and easier. So they've really been enjoying it.
So, sorry, I skipped over that. So in terms of cost information, as we said, this will be entirely funded for 25-26 by the grant, and we'll even have some money for overage as well within that for future years. The curriculum material, the breakdown of the amounts that we have for our budget are there for you. The student books are consumables, and I've listed the cost of each of the books there. So like I said, we'll order that overage to allow us to then have some extra books for the future and for students as they arrive next year, but we will be asking in the future for this to be included in the budget to continue to purchase those books going forward. So in terms of our plan for implementation, this spring we would like to place that order based on our projected student groups and enrollment. We've already started doing some professional development and we'll continue to do that. We've been beginning to develop some lesson plans. Our pilot teachers are acting as mentors for the rest of the department. So we've already scheduled some opportunities for the elementary team to observe Melissa and our middle school teacher to come and work with Patrice to see the lessons in action. And they're going to work together on some unit planning as well for next year. At our August in-service days, we plan to hire a consultant to come and help us with beginning to do this work on shifting to the new curriculum. And then in the fall of 2025 and beyond, we'll obviously be implementing the curriculum and watching how that rollout goes, and be working together to create a scope and sequence across K-12, and then continue to look for professional development opportunities as needed in response to how things go.
Yeah, so we will, open it up for any questions that you have, and then we're hoping that there'll be, that you'll be able to recommend the adoption of National Geographic as our ESL curriculum for K-12.
Any questions, Carla?
I have a few questions. The first one's just a curious question. How many languages are you fluent in?
I wish. I speak some Spanish, and I worked on my Portuguese when we had all those Brazilian students start, but I'm not fluent in another language besides English.
I'm pretty good in French, but I don't know if I would say totally fluent. I'm becoming a really good listener. Especially Portuguese and Spanish in my classrooms. I'm getting a lot, but I'm not fluent in Spanish or Portuguese.
I'm kind of fascinating when you think of a student, Monday morning walking into a classroom, like what that means for that teacher, right? And you have to deal with parents as well. So
Yes.
I'm curious about that as well. Who is funding this specific grant? Is it federal level, state level?
It's a state grant.
It's a state grant. And what has happened to our enrollment in like the last 2 months?
We actually had 2 new students enroll in the last month.
No students leave.
And the month before, we actually had a family of 3. So yeah, we haven't had any students leave this spring. We had students leave in the fall. So yeah, we haven't seen much of a shift as of yet in enrollment.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Are you interested in looking at the books?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
I'll just thank you for the process, right, and the diligence in going through it. I like the fact that we use the standard rubrics. I like the baselining of it against the WIDA standards. You know, I love the fact that there's, you know, science and reading related tie-ins to it as well. So, yeah, and the fact that I was thinking, can we use some of the higher graded phonics ones in case some of our other students have not yet reached proficiency levels that maybe aren't?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I read through a lot of those materials as well. Karen was nice enough to share them with me. And it's interesting, the instruction does look a little bit different because you are teaching students the, you know, the letter sounds and the parts of the word to a word they don't know yet. And so there's sort of dual instruction happening as to what is the word, what is its meaning, and then what are the letter sounds. So it's a slightly different routine than we would use for teaching a student who's coming to us already speaking English and knowing the words as part of their language.
Yep.
So there's that added layer of complexity when you're teaching an ML student.
Is it analytic or synthetic?
I would say that you're going to test me on that. I would say,
It's a quick question.
I would say that it is, it's more of teaching the letters, then moving into digraphs, taught with like short vowels and then long vowels. So it's a little bit more of broken out in that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Carla, were you going to have something else?
A quick question, too. Did I get the right statistic of a student who is a beginner student who comes in, who doesn't know English at all? Do they graduate out of the program? Did you say about 5 to 6 years?
Correct.
Just curious.
They're always MLs, but they no longer have to worry about being in the pull-out classes and stuff like
Correct.
that, right?
And we refer to them as former MLs.
Former MLs?
Yeah, and we monitor them for 4 years after they leave the program to make sure they're still being successful in their classes and to support those teachers and strategies they can use with them as well. So we follow them through most of their school career usually.
So they've had to master English, right, and then be proficient at the grade level as well.
Correct.
Carla, that just gives me the chance to, I've spent some time in Patrice's room. If you want to meet some of the most amazing students in the district, spend some time in Patrice's room, just to see some of the students share like parts of their identity, their stories, their passion. It is just a like vibrant, dynamic place to be with some of our most engaged students. So if you haven't, I'm sure Patrice would welcome you anytime to come.
Yes,
be a part of
I would love it. Like I said, my intermediate class, I have 8 students and 7 languages represented.
It's amazing.
Which I love because they have to speak English. Like sometimes you get classes with just, you know, like 3 Brazilians, so the Portuguese is flying. But in this class, it's just constant English, constant interaction. So I feel really lucky. And they're amazing people. Their stories, where they've come from, what they've gone through, and what they're experiencing here. They're resilient. They're amazing.
My mother came from Italy when she was 11 and knew no English, and they were just put into school. Like,
Yeah.
you have to learn.
Yeah, yeah.
So, no supports in that respect.
That's hard, yeah.
So just looking at the numbers, it was about $141 when you added up all the consumables. But that's not, you don't have to buy each one of those every year because it's grade specific, right? So it's 29, 40, and then 72.
Correct.
So
And the
just
majority
based
of our
upon how many
students are
you're gonna
elementary.
have, right? It's going to be based on how many you're going to have. So
Yeah.
really, it's going to be like probably $70 times number of students because it's split across them, give or take, right? So it's, you know, consumable cost is relatively small here in the grand scheme of things. Like $7,000 a year when we
Yeah.
get to that, give or take,
Yeah.
so.
And
Go ahead, sir.
we currently have a material that we've been purchasing. It's part of our old program that is in our budget that will also be sunsetting. So
So net, do you have an idea what the net difference is?
I,
Not that we're not
From-
doing this, but I just.
yeah, from eyeballing it, it looked similar. Perhaps we would need to increase, by slightly. but it
There is
seemed
a digital
manageable.
license component too, though, and so I was already counting on that digital
Yeah.
license portion. We're not sure that we're going to roll out digital licenses for everyone. We think that we're not going to for elementary. We feel like we'd rather them not be on computers when they have these beautiful books. But for our middle and high schoolers, we do feel like the digital component would be valuable. And that is about, I had those figures for you. It adds an additional $20 for the middle schoolers and $28 for the high schoolers.
Still minimal,
So-
in the grand scheme.
It will be a little bit more than the money that we have. for
Okay. Any other questions from anybody else? Sean, you got anything on your side? Okay. Aaron, do you have a motion for us?
Motion to approve the ESL curriculum?
The adoption of National Geographic as the ESL curriculum for grades K through 12. Do I have a second?
Second.
Was that Sarah?
Yep.
Yep, seconded by Sarah. Any further discussion by the committee? No? All right, we'll start remotely. Sean?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Tom? Yes. 6-0. Thank you, ladies. Great job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
We're
much.
very excited.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. And we're now into section E5, and in E5, knowing Michelle has 5 she has to stick around for, I'm going to move that we pull E5E forward, IKF graduation requirements. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Aaron. Any discussion? Nope. Roll call, Sean?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Tom, yes. Jess, do you want to join us up here? So in the packet, we have, I guess I'll set the stage as we go into this. Tom, will you stop the share there?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
What we went through was generally, as you go through the different policies, there's going to be a lot of, MASC alignment, there's going to be some, administration updates, and then, ultimately we'll have a clean version that comes out of it that is our final version. In the case of IKF, Jess and Sarah, I think, sat down and went through it based upon the MCAS vote from last November, to adjust the fact that we will need a competency related standard to be part of the graduation standard. So essentially, no longer will MCAS be part of the graduation standard, but this competency standard will be. We also took a chance there to do some other cleanup that we noticed as we were going through it, some of which, frankly, even for the subcommittee, Jess, myself, and Olivia were just doing over the last couple days in alignment with our thoughts of, hey, we're going to clean it up as we go through. So we'll start with that one as we go through it, and if we have any other further conversations or points, I'm going to share the one that most recently had Jess's feedback from earlier this week, and then also some additional Grammarly related feedback. I can also go back to the original one from just the packet if anybody wants me to, but this is the most clean version of the policy as it stands. Go ahead. I can try, yeah. So, bigger. And look at that, I cleared them all out, and there's 11 there back. Can't go bigger than that, come on. There you go.
Thank you.
So, in essence, the red at the top is just basic cleanup. We started using, I noticed as we were going through it, we're using RMHS in different places, and we set it up at the top, but we didn't spell it out, and then we spelled it out later, and so we just try to correct that from an order of operations perspective. What we did as well is this section on competency determination. This is the substantive change, the biggest substantive change to the policy, and this is in direct response to as I said, the MCAS vote from November. In addition to that, we made some adjustments to health. It used to say 1 semester of health X and 1 semester of health Y. It is now just 2 semesters of health. that is listed there, and Jess and Sarah can opine into the background of that. You'll see that at the end of the graduation requirements, the competency evidence of earning competency determination replaces what used to be the MCAS-related requirements. And then we've also added in some considerations that didn't used to be there. So considerations for transfer students and considerations for out-of-district place students was added at the end of the policy as well. So open the floor for questions, comments, concerns, and Jess, if there's anything I missed in that you want to add, then we can do that. And Sean, jump right in.
Yeah, I actually don't really have any major issues with most of the updates, particularly the ones made to align with MCAS and whatnot, but it's just an observation. Here's what folks think. This policy is a little unusual, and it has a lot of editorializing here at the beginning versus, getting sort of straight into a policy. And one sentence that struck out to me in particular was the second one. There it says they're not best served by planning narrowly focused 4-year courses of study. I don't disagree with the sentiment or the premise behind that, but I think there's like a judgment. There's some judgment into what determines a narrowly focused 4-year course of study. And as we move into more students going in innovation pathways, for instance, in some sense that is a more narrow focused course of study at the high school. And so I'm just curious what, if there was any discussion as you all evaluated this on sort of the necessity for some of the editorializing up front.
I'll defer it first to Jess and Sarah to see if they even looked at that or not. I know we didn't as a policy subcommittee because we were focusing on these changes, but we did find that there was an error at the beginning of that paragraph, as Jess in particular found it as we were going through, which has been adjusted. But Sean, your point is noted, and I did, as I was looking through this, go back to the MASC one, which just basically starts, in order to graduate from blank, a student must have earned blank, right? There's nothing to your point about the editorializing that happens at the top of it. And so, yeah, I totally see your point. Go ahead.
I can speak as a subcommittee. I think that's spot on. I didn't review that then at that point either, but I agree with it, that maybe we shouldn't be editorializing in the beginning.
Is there any feedback from any of the educators?
I didn't deeply pay attention to the beginning portion. I was more focused on what the meat of what needed to be included in terms of graduation requirements and the competency determination. I just figured that was kind of how each policy started, so I didn't really fully hone in on that. I don't have a strong opinion either way.
Now, there was a review of this policy a couple of years ago. I think you were on the committee at the time. It might have been, it was your predecessor, I think, that did it with Lena. Carla, you might have been on that committee at the time as well.
Yeah,
Do you remember any intent around this being part of that conversation?
Again, at that time, I don't think we looked at that language. We were talking about requirements and
And I can vouch for that
moving
because
PE, yeah.
the first sentence, which Jess had found was weird, was incomplete, and it was incomplete in the previous version at that point in time too. So I'm not surprised.
See, we all are just like,
Yeah.
go down there.
I mean, and to Ms. Connor's point, I mean, this is North Star vision, portrait of a graduate type language. Like policy language is supposed to be prescriptive about things that must be done. This policy is very much an outlier in having this, and I would advocate, or maybe I could formally offer an amendment to strike the first two paragraphs. I think the third one is fine. The third one feels sort of on point, but
Third one is duplicative. The third one is duplicative of all the materials below it. So I would even strike the third one.
Just start with it is.
Start with the Reading School Committee's policy is that the following are course requirements for graduation from RMHS.
It's much more direct.
I just need to change RMHS to be Reading Memorial High School and then RMHS in parentheses at that point in time. So are we on so Sean, is that your motion?
Let me just, can you move your mouse? Yes, thank you. I will say that this references, I don't know if this is a good or bad thing. This paragraph references the sort of like typical schedule of a student,
Yep.
not what they have to achieve by the end of, you know,
Yep.
by the time they graduate.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that cumulatively it kind of means the same thing, but I think there's a functional difference between what this paragraph says and what the rest of the policy does. So I want to throw that out there before we choose to strike it.
I agree, there's a functional difference, but maybe it's not the right place. We can also take it out and think if it goes in a different place. But it's not a graduation requirement, really,
That
arguably.
I agree with. So I'm open to taking it out if everybody's comfortable with that. I just wanted to clarify, like, I don't think that that paragraph is, you know, is duplicative with the rest of this. But I agree, it's not really relevant to a graduation policy either.
Okay, I'm seeing Jess nod as she looks at it too. Tom's nodding.
I agree.
I agree.
So the motion on the
My
table,
amendment to strike I would move to amend to strike the first three paragraphs.
okay, so moved or seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, just the motion is to strike the first three paragraphs. Real quick roll call on that. Sean?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Tom? Yes. So stricken. Okay, so that means we're down to, and I'll make this as part of the motion without anybody saying it was, but I think we're all on the same page. And I can type again these days, which is progress. All right, so then you have the basic requirements for promotion. You have the competency determination, which is the new language. You have the graduation requirements, which are in particular 4 years of English, 4 years of mathematics. This, starting with the class of 2026, is the carryover from the previous review, and it still is valid because we have not, well, we actually have finished that now. Everybody's post-class of 2026, right?
Well, we're currently in 2025.
2025. But the 2026,
Our
they haven't
juniors.
finished yet. They haven't finished, but they did start already.
They will have to take
Yeah.
the fourth year of math next year.
Yeah, exactly. And then the considerations for transfer and considerations for out of district. Just so we can see it clean, I'll just do a quick, clean view as well. If I can get my screen sharing thing to move. Somebody gonna say something? I thought I heard a,
No, I guess I just have a clarifying question
Fire away.
around, so the new sections are on transfer students and
Yep.
out of district. This is probably a high school policy thing or practice thing of who and how we determine what equivalent coursework is for each of those scenarios.
We assess their transcripts when they come in, and there's a lot of different possibilities when students come in, sometimes from other countries, different types of schools. And so they are assessed by either name of course, nomenclature, or we talk to, if it's not clear, talk to the school counselors
by case.
or principals at that school to ask what the equivalent would be so that we can award as many credits as possible in the areas of group that are required for graduation or the CDs.
Thank you.
okay. Anybody want to go through a Grammarly review?
No.
No.
No?
I tried to do that.
Go ahead, Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, just one more thing, and I apologize in advance for being pedantic, but some policies, that's what we do. In that first sentence where it says the Reading School Committee's policy is, I think we should strike the word course requirements. Let me explain what I'm about to say, and then we'll, maybe can implement. But I would suggest striking the word course requirements, and so instead I would say the following are the requirements for promotion and graduation from Reading Memorial High School. It's a little odd for us to talk about graduation requirements and then immediately start talking about promotion requirements. So, and the reason I would strike course then is because the promotion requirements are about credits attained versus specific course requirements.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, courses was a problem. It was classes, courses. Okay, so course requirements for promotion and graduation is what your suggestion is?
I think he's saying take out the
I
word
know.
course.
So just say the requirements. yeah.
Requirements for promotion, graduation.
All right, I'm just going to say, is that a friendly amendment? Does anybody have any objections?
No.
That match your intention?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, any further feedback? All right, so this will be effective immediately, which is one of the things we have the option of saying what the effective date is, so this will be effective immediately. That's my suggestion, and I would suggest that be part of the motion. So Aaron, will you give us a motion, please?
Motion to accept policy IKF, graduation requirements, as amended, effective immediately.
Seconded by Chuck. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll do a roll call, starting with Sean.
Yes.
Chuck. Sarah.
Yes.
Yes.
Carla, yes. Aaron?
Yes.
Yes. And we are? Tom, yes, thank you. Trying to do two things at once, save the document so I can move on and do a roll call. So we are final, and we can free Jess up to go home. Thank you, Jess. Thank you for the help with it as well.
Of course, thank you.
Okay, so we move back to GBA. My computer will respond to me, I can do that. All right, moving back to GBA, equal employment opportunity. Michelle, would you like to join us up here? She's like, not really.
Come on, we're fun.
All right, so sharing GBA.
She's like, you get me at 7 a.m., you get me at 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah, that is true. We have been working at weird hours for the subcommittee to move things forward. All right, so GBA is one, is one that, I have to increase the size so people can see it again, is one that we initially went through as part of an MSC update, which was dated from March of 2023. Michelle then took it, clarified it, made it better, and everything you see is MR recommendation in the purple below is the group that we adopted as a subcommittee or recommended for adoption as a subcommittee. So the purple is the section we'll be looking at in today's conversation, as long as I can get my slider to work properly. I think that's good enough, so once it catches up. So the recommendation is here in the purple. It has been re-reviewed also by legal, and it is okay. No additional changes by legal. So if we adopt this, everything that's in the purple will go to the top of the policy and will be the policy going forward. So open for any questions, comments, or concerns on this one. Okay, seeing none. Let's take a motion.
Motion to adopt policy GBA, equal employment opportunity.
Go to second.
Second.
Seconded by Chuck. Last chance for any further discussion. Hearing none, we'll do roll call. Sean?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Tom? Yes, and it passes as well, 6-0.
You took out the MR recommendation line.
What's that?
You took out just MR recommendation.
Everything below MR recommendation will be the actual policy. All right, so moving on from GBA, and the next one is GBEA. And starting with GBEA. Should I could make this easier on myself. Here we go. The GBEA, this one, I think there were less changes. If I can get my scroll to work. I'm wrong. No, this one, there were significant changes, multiple changes, sorry. I was wrong. Significant changes that Michelle did, and then was reviewed by legal as well for any further updates, and so it is in compliance with any legal-related needs as well. The legal updates basically is just the blue letters inside the purple. Okay, outside of school or outside of school time. So this one would be, again, we would take, if we adopt it, we would take everything below MR recommendation, and it would be the policy. And Michelle, since there's so much here, I'll just ask you to spend a second to give the committee some background on what done.
Sure. So what I did with this one, the conflict of interest, because the conflict of interest is, we get a lot of questions about it, and it can be confusing. So what I did was I reformatted the content with headings to actually enhance its readability, so it's out of that paragraph form for consistency. I updated the language to apply to all employees, not just professional staff, because it is a policy that all employees are bound by as municipal employees. This change continues across all policies. I added guidance on how to report conflicts of interest when we feel like they arise, or if we need any guidance around whether something could be a conflict of interest or not. And then I clarified key terms such as private business, financial interest. What does that look like in practice? Because that shows up in the policy, but it's hard with the practical application of that. And then I clearly outlined expectations, enforcement measures, and consequences for noncompliance. And this is in line with MGL and MASC.
Okay. Any questions, feedback, concerns? As we move it up to the top section, assuming we adopt it, we'll double check any other, legal refs that need to be added, although I think we did catch them. They're referenced in the doc, but if they're not referenced in legal refs, we'll clean that up as well. Sean, anything on your side? Nope. Okay. Aaron, can I have a motion, please?
Motion to adopt policy GBEA, staff ethics / conflict of interest.
Seconded by Chuck, and we'll do a roll call, but we'll start here with Aaron.
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
And Tom, yes. Okay, so this one is now final as well. We'll clean it up before we publish it. And we move on to GBEB, I believe.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Which one were you going to?
GBEB.
GBEB.
Staff conduct?
Yes.
Staff conduct, yes. Once again, the purple section, Michelle has taken due diligence to update it, to make it more complete and correct, and just clarified. Michelle, if there's anything else you want to add to that in terms of the updates?
For updates for staff conduct, I did specific examples of the laws and regulations to make the section more tangible and relatable to the reader. I clarified consequences for misconduct, explicitly stated that harassment, discrimination, violations of state and federal laws, and noncompliance will not be tolerated. And then I think that's the majority of those references.
And legal has gone through and re-reviewed the updates she made as well, and anything in blue is from legal. So that would be part of the policy update as well. Any questions from anybody else on the committee? Okay, none. Aaron, can I have a motion, please?
Motion to adopt policy GBEB, staff conduct.
Do we have a second? Seconded by Carla. All right, roll call. Sean?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
And Tom? Yes. And that passes 6-0 as well. Okay, so we are moving on to GBEC. And drug-free workplace.
So, can I ask a question, or do you want?
You can ask.
So when we talked about this, in the subcommittee, we talked about alcohol.
Yep.
And I don't see any, we didn't pursue that any further with legal counsel or anyone to put that, something in there along those lines?
We did have legal counsel re-review it, but there was no addition that they made of any sort of alcohol. I didn't specifically ask that question though, Chuck, in my email to her, so that could be my miss, but I don't think we said we had to do that coming out of the subcommittee meeting either.
I just think that it's something that we should pay serious attention to in the same manner we would with drugs.
I don't think anybody's, especially in the workplace, nobody wants people drinking alcohol in the workplace.
I think it would fall under the same scope too as the safety policy. We're not reviewing that one tonight, but I know under there, we have reference to basically unsafe behaviors in the workplace. And I think that it doesn't specifically say alcohol, but I think that would fall within the realm of that policy as well.
Are you okay with it proceeding, or do you want to table it and come back and have legal look at it for alcohol inclusion?
I'd be curious, I mean, I'm not gonna, hold it up just for me, I'd just be curious what others think. I think that,
Okay, so, any thoughts from the rest of the committee on the inclusion of, or trying to add some portion with the drug-free workplace to add the idea of alcohol-free as well?
Just one thought, it could get just functionally very difficult to amend this to address alcohol because so much of it is about, drugs as controlled substances, and convictions related to drugs, et cetera, that wouldn't necessarily apply to alcohol, which is, otherwise legal for adults to possess and consume. So I think it would be a little bit challenging tactically to make this policy work in the context of also talking about alcohol.
yeah, no, and can I?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I guess I thought we were gonna have something that had addressed that before tonight, so that, at a pay grade above me to write it, so that's fine.
I'm okay with not changing it as long as you feel like it's covered elsewhere. And I agree, it's sort of a different beast. Like, I almost see it more under like, yes, safety, but also like the addiction, the mental health angle. I don't know.
Yes, and alcoholism would be considered a disability as well, so we would address it, we can address it under staff safety if we had any sort of allegation that a staff member showed up inebriated, and then in terms of alcoholism or staff member needing additional resources, we would address that through a potential leave of absence or the employee assistance program.
The other thing about this one is the reason this one exists is because there's a federal requirement for, I don't know exactly what the stipulations are, but it has to do with either grant awards or certain types of employers or whatever. But there's a federal requirement that we do this. In the context of the federal requirement, the drug-free workplace concept is about having a workplace full of people who are drug-free, like broadly, not literally just in the workplace. Which is why you have, federal employees and subjects in, random drug testing and things like that, right? So, again, for the same reason, I think it's difficult to but I think it's difficult to put alcohol into the same policy, given that a lot of those issues wouldn't apply. People are welcome to use alcohol, outside of the workplace.
Yeah, I mean, it is referenced in the policy at the bottom, that 41 USC 81 is the drug-free workplace federal statute. Sarah, you're gonna add?
I think just really emphasizing the fact this is intended to be about controlled substances, so I think
All
it
right,
gets
so
very
I'll
murky.
say then we don't have an alcohol policy. I mean, we think it's inner.
We have a tobacco, we have a drug, we don't have alcohol.
areas, but it's not any less of a problem with drugs.
I think your point, we're more or less on the same page with. It's a little bit of a, I think we just have to figure out how we would address it if we do start to create one in that case.
And the cross-references,
Yep.
right? Drugs and alcohol.
Drug and alcohol used by students, yep.
And then teaching about drugs, alcohol, and tobacco.
Yep.
It would be normal to expect.
Ask about alcohol.
Right.
Yep.
A policy for teachers being inebriated during work or drinking during work.
Staff, period, not just teachers, but yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, so that's an action that we can take as the subcommittee or whatever, but let's take a motion.
Motion to adopt policy GBEC, drug-free workplace.
Seconded by Carla. All right, any further discussion? Okay, so roll call, Sean?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
And Tom? Yes, and it passes as well. All right, so now we will move on from our adoptions to our first reading, and that is the staff personal security and safety item. So the share will go to that policy, which is right here. This is a new policy modeled after MASC and edited heavily by Michelle to make it better, and further reviewed by legal as well. So, Michelle, do you want to talk to any of the edits you made?
Yes, so I, at the original date is not on this. I think it's 2006. So it was originally, the last time it was edited was 2006. So I did modernize some of the language that's included within. I incorporated protections related to reasonable belief and aligned it with existing policies in our CBAs. I ensured language balances the district protection for staff with staff comfort and safety and security. And then I emphasized at the end that the EAP is a voluntary resource. It does not impact job security, promotional opportunities, and we do encourage that staff to utilize the EAP without concern. It's not monitored and does not affect career progression here in the district.
Okay. Any feedback, any questions, any comments? This would be the first reading we're accepting. It's not a full acceptance. I'm just trying to double, triple confirm that because I want to make sure my notes are 100% right. Sean, no? Carla or Sarah?
I guess maybe just a comment. I'm surprised, I guess maybe there wasn't a more explicit statement from legal around the confidentiality related to the EAP, but in terms of not sharing data back with employers, but just a comment.
Okay, I can follow up with that between now and the second one.
Okay.
So you're asking about data sharing?
If we want just more, if we want, it says confidential services, but I wonder if we want a more explicit statement, a few more words in there about how utilization of the EAP is not, there's no identifiable information shared back with the district or town.
Okay, I'll just add a note for myself. New comment. Check with, what just happened? Where'd my comment box go? There it is. Check with legal on confidentiality statement. Okay. Any other feedback or questions? All right, then I have double checked and GB does not exist in our policy manual. So this is a first reading. So we're just moving to accept the first reading then.
Move to accept the first reading of policy GBGB, staff, personal security and safety.
Do I have a second? Seconded by Chuck. Okay, any further discussion? No, roll call. Chuck?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Tom? Yes. So that was, first reading was accepted. So we'll, second reading will be at our next meeting. Wrong document. All right, so moving on now is the last item. Go ahead.
Sorry, just a quick maybe heads up for the alcohol conversation.
Yep.
Policy GBED is tobacco use on school property by staff members. That's probably an easier one, a better, sort of more logical fit to amend to include, alcohol use or being under the influence on school property, that kind of thing.
Yep. Yeah, I was looking at that one as well as potential option. Okay. All right, so moving on to the agenda, to our last item on the agenda, it's the notification of other policy items that we have reviewed and voted on over the last couple of weeks as a policy committee, subcommittee, I should say. We have completed our review of policy FF. It does qualify for a single review and adoption. It will be on our agenda for March 27th. We also have done the same for GBEBC, gifts to and solicitation by staff, and GBI, staff participation in political activities. Both of those will qualify as single amendment votes. Finally, there's a new policy, GBGE, domestic violence leave, which will go through its first reading for that meeting on the 27th. Okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns before we close down tonight? Carla?
Our May 22nd meeting,
Yes.
just as an FYI, the
Senior awards night?
That night, no, senior prom's that night.
Oh, okay.
But the kids may be off by then, just putting it on our radar.
They better be off by then. It's 7.
Yeah, they will have left by.
Yeah. Yeah, but you'll be down doing senior promenade pictures and all sorts of fun stuff right beforehand. Okay, there was one other one, I think, actually, that I saw, that there was an awards night that had a conflict, so I wanted to look at it. I don't know if it was the 12th or something else, but I'm going to double check some of the calendars in May and see if there's anything else that we need to look at. Okay, so with that said, do I have a final motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Carla.
Second.
Seconded by Aaron. Roll call. Sean?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Chuck? Yes. Tom? Yes, and we are adjourned at 9:35.